Holly Cotton here, and I am joined today by Avery Washington, who is a poet and an author. You guys may be familiar with Avery because the first book that he wrote was a bestseller called Letters for My Daughters. And today we're going to talk about another one of his books, which is called The Over-Sexualization of Black Women in America. I have my copy right here. Loved it, love it, love it. And so this is what we're going to talk about today. So welcome, Avery.
Hello, how you doing today?
So first question, of course, is whenever I read the title, The Over-Sexualization of Black Women in America, I immediately said, this is interesting for a man to write this kind of book. So so can you start off by explaining to us why you wrote this book?
Okay, that question was asked by a man also. He was wondering how could a man write a book like that? But to give you all a little background on me, I was raised by three generations of women. I was raised by my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother. So I also married a single mother, and I had two daughters within that marriage. So I've been around women all my life, and black women have been pouring into me all my life. And raising three daughters, of course, I always wanted to write content to protect them. Just like you mentioned, Letters to My Daughters, Poetic Affirmations of Love from a Father. I wrote that book to teach them the embrace of love of God and self so they would desperately seek love from man or anyone else. And with over sexualization of black women in America, I feel that black men are also responsible for the over sexualization of black women in America. And I wanted to go from a historical standpoint from the 1700s until the present day. And what I wanted to do was leave some solutions so that we can have some positive narratives and control our narratives as creators and have some positive content about our women instead of continuing to create content that is degrading to our women.
Okay, I love that. First, thank you. We appreciate you having a voice for us. So thank you. And especially being a mother of a daughter, I totally understand. And as I read the book, I did pay attention to certain things that you said, and I was like, oh, that's a different angle, or that's an interesting outtake, outlook on certain things. So I definitely appreciate that you kind of took this on as a personal project as well, because you do have children. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about was at the one of the earlier chapters of the book, you kind of talked about your upbringing, and you kind of just went into that as well about being a single mom. And I thought one of the things that you said was very interesting, and it was about you not having a father, and you kind of talked about that and losing your dad and not really knowing, having a connection with him. And you said that when people asked you why weren't you sad, or did you miss not having a dad, you were like, I didn't even have a dad. I don't know what that's like to miss it. So how has that impacted you in being the father that you are?
I mean, I guess if I was to speak to a therapist, they would tell me where you're so overprotective of your daughters because you didn't have a father around. But me growing up with my mother and not having a father around, I don't know what it's like to miss having one because I never had it. So it's just a real answer. But my mother always kept me with positive male role models. I played sports, since childhood to through high school, and she always had a positive mentor in my life. So I learned a lot about being a man by being around positive role models, and I think that's very important for single mothers if they have sons.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I have a son also, and I definitely feel conflicted at times because I want to raise him not to be one of the men that out here I'm always cussing out. No.
Right,
And I'm
right.
like, you was raised better than this. Don't have these girls out here thinking that your mama didn't teach you, because I've taught you. So yeah, I know it's kind of like now you realize what you didn't have, and you want to make sure that your kids have that, and it kind of forces you to be a little bit maybe overprotective or an over parent because you're trying to make up for what they lacked. So I love that. I love that. Kudos to you for being a great dad. Now, let me go into the book because I know everyone's like, all right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, get to the point, get to the point. Okay, so as I was going through the book, I know that you had a lot of historical references in the book, which I loved because I was getting my Black History Month on while I was reading as well. And one of the references, I actually had to go and research it because I had never seen this movie, Sweetback Badass Song. And so I guess my parents were censoring my what I was watching. So when I went on, I looked and I was like, okay, this is interesting. So can you tell us, because you did, you had like a whole couple of pages or one or two pages. I'm
Right.
not the whole thing, but I'm just saying you had like a lot of content that referenced that. So can you tell us how that became something that you saw as a monumental impact on over sexualization, and also how you found that, like, how did you even come find that movie, because you're like my age, so I'm just curious how you even found it,
Yeah,
so
right.
how you found it and then why you're using that as a reference point.
Well, before I wrote the book, I spoke to my editor, and he was like, "Avery, this title, it's it's pretty dangerous." He said, you can offend a lot of people. So that was the reason why I wanted to put historical facts so people can understand where I was coming from with the book. And the slave masters back in the day, they created a narrative which is a false narrative that black women were innately hypersexual and that white women were pure. So during the black exploitation period, when you're speaking about that movie Sweetback Badass Song, there was a time where we had black directors and filmmakers who could have changed that false narrative and created positive roles for black women, so black women wouldn't be represented in that false narrative light, that very negative false narrative light. So I just didn't understand why, as a black creator, why didn't we take that opportunity to take advantage and change that narrative and place our women in a positive light? Just like the slave masters said that black women were innately hypersexual and white women were pure, we should have took that narrative and protected our women. And I think that was a key point in history where, as black men, we have to be accountable and realize that we failed our women at that pivotal point in life.
Right, right, right. Okay, yeah. And I love that you said that because that's true. And I think that even now, like you said, even now with the music videos and all of these platforms where you could highlight black women, just minority women, because it's in black and brown right now, because it's like everybody kind of
Right,
has this,
right.
like, now everyone has these mixed kids. They don't really know,
Oh, of
and so
course.
they're like, okay. But yeah, anyone that's technically brown and whatever, they're being shown as these over sexual beings. Like everyone looks exactly the same. Every they have the same body, the same look, and everything that could be positive, it's like it is. Everything is sexy and all of this stuff. And you have to read the book because I'm not going to tell you guys all the tidbits, but he talks about a lot of the music. He talks about certain things, and we'll go into one because I know we're going to talk about WAP when we talk about negative feedback. Because I know you were getting beat up about WAP, so we're going to talk about that in
Yeah,
a
I
little
got beat
bit.
up.
So
Mhm.
I know that I'm going to give a sidebar on myself for a minute, Avery. Okay, so I know for me, I like to feel sexy to the person that I'm with, right? So I feel like it's hard, and I know that you're married and all of that stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I'm talking about for like maybe a single person. So I know that it's hard for women to date men that have the opinions kind of like you, and feel like they may not know how to be that sexy being for someone who does feel like a lot of things are over sexualized. So How would you explain that to a single man or a single woman that wants to be sexy for her husband? At what point do you kind of give your, I guess right now, your expert opinion about how to not be over sexual but still being sexy?
Well, over sexualization of black women in America, I know that's a strong title, but like I said, I gave a historical standpoint. I mean, I've been married 24 years and I love women, and I see nothing wrong with women being sexy. So I don't want people to take the wrong opinion. I'm not speaking of women being sexual. I want women to be sexual. We are human beings, we're sexual beings. What I'm saying is when people exploit people and when they exploit women and over sexualize women, when somebody looks at you as an object, not you over sexualizing yourself. So I'm not attacking women in the book whatsoever. What I'm doing is I'm letting people know the history of it, because we as creators, we need to create content to uplift our women. Because I'm giving an example. I have a 16-year-old daughter that's beautiful. All my daughters are beautiful, but my 16-year-old is always fully clothed. She came home one day and I was having a conversation with her. And when I was having a conversation with her, she started crying. So I asked her, I was like, what's wrong? And you have adult men that will over sexualize any woman, no matter what. And adult men would try to speak to her. And as a child, that's offensive and that's scary. So what happens is these young teenage girls will start feeling insecure about their bodies and blame their bodies for people putting negative attention on them, which these people are over sexualizing you. It's not you. So, by being in a home and being a father and instilling love and support to her, it made her feel better about herself and it gave her confidence about herself. And I had to explain to her, it's not you, it's these men. So, a woman just has to be real attentive to what's going on around her, and she can decide on who she wants to be sexy with and how she wants to be sexy. I have no problem with that.
Okay, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of explain that to us because like you said, when people read the title or they're getting into it, I want people to understand what it is that you're trying to say. So, I'm glad that you broke it down because I think that it's kind of like a thin line almost of when you become too sexy. And I have a daughter the same. I know as soon as they start getting some boobs and a booty, like everybody's looking
Right.
at them, and and she has a
And they feel insecure about it,
right, right. She has an older brother who wants to fight everyone, and I'm like, okay, you can't fight everyone. But yeah, it's like there's this thin line that people cross, and it's like, when does it become too sexual? When is it not? So I wanted you to kind of give us your input on that as well.
I have another point on it. Basically, when it becomes too sexual is when it's degrading. When it's degrading our women, or some women if they're degrading themselves. I think that's when it's too far.
Got it. Got it. Okay. I'm taking notes of this. Okay. Yeah. All you bastards. No, I'm kidding. All these men out here.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you as a man. Look, we're gonna have
Okay.
a
Okay.
sidebar right quick. Okay, as a man, and when I was coming up, women have complete control. I would say 99% of the time on how a man approaches her. You have some men that are going to be disrespectful no matter what. But if a woman is carrying herself in a professional or a classy way, even if a guy is very disrespectful and just no manners at all, he will step his game up to speak to her and try to reach her on her level. And he will approach her with respect. So what I teach my daughters is carry yourself like a young lady, and most of the times people will approach you like a young lady. But on the other hand, if you carrying yourself like WAP, hey, I mean, guys approach women the way they carry themselves. A lot of women don't want to hear that, but that's reality. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree, and not to be a prude about it or anything, or the auntie now, because I'm older. So, uh, but I always felt like I always was more on the classy side. Of course, if I'm going to the beach, I'm wearing a bikini. I'm gonna wear what I want to wear. If I have a cute dress, I'm still gonna rock it or whatever. But I understand what you're saying as far as that. Like, there's this differentiation between being sexy, and then you don't have to take every picture with your legs wide open. You don't, like, there's certain things. So it's kind of like, but the problem is that now that is being embraced. And actually, I'll tell you, I had a conversation with someone, and we were talking about Instagram and just my platform and the growth that I've had and all of this stuff. And he was like, yeah, and he was like, and it's crazy because a lot of women really, it's very difficult for them to grow like an Instagram or whatever without doing extra sexy stuff. And he was like, so I'm glad that you are still showing that you can be classy and respectful. And I was like, yeah. And I said, and it's really sad because to have like an influencer status now on social media or on these platforms, the expectation is that you are sexy. So the 20-year-olds, they're seeing that, you have to have the fake bodies. You have to be taking pictures, in lingerie and have your booty cheeks out and all of this. And it is kind of sad because it's like, what do you do? Do you try and stay on the path of I'm gonna be classy, or do you conform to what it is that society is asking you to do in order to be successful and have followers and have all of this, these benefits that come with it? So yeah,
It's tricky because you and another woman could wear the same exact outfit, but you would look classy and she might look another way. So it's all about how you present yourself and how you carry yourself and what you wear. And then, like you say, some people conform, but if you conform to what society wants, what type of attention, or what type of man do you think you're attracting? Are you attracting a man of substance? Are you attracting a man that just wants you for your physical? Because you're not showing any intellectual side of you. You're just showing your physical body, and that's going to draw the wrong type of attention a lot of times. Not saying that it's deserved, but I'm just being honest. As a man, when a man is just seeing something physical constantly, that's all he's thinking about. He's not thinking of your intellect at all.
right. Yes. And let me just have a disclaimer. Me nor Avery is telling you that you cannot wear your sexual outfits. We're not
Not at
telling you
all.
that you cannot wear your dresses. You cannot wear whatever you want to wear, because that's always something. And I know you get a lot of backlash for that, but because people, well, I can wear what I want to wear, and a man should never, I shouldn't have to protect myself from a man. I shouldn't have to do that. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I want to make sure we are telling that to everyone that's listening. We are not trying to control what you wear. You are right. You could walk around the street butt naked, and it does not mean that a man has the right to grope you, to sexually assault you, anything else. We're not talking about that. We are specifically talking about over sexualization and how it is and where it started and where it is now and how it's still going on this path. So, just a disclaimer, because don't nobody come on my show and, and start
Right.
trying to attack.
And that's why I also had two female contributors to the book, because I wanted the females, version, and how over sexualization of Black women in America, the experience has bothered them, or affected them in any kind
Right,
of
right.
way.
And you actually had like some big people that were like contributors, right? Or some like really like Black
Yes,
African American
yes,
studies people. So that's good. I
yes.
love that. I love that. Okay, so can you tell us, because now we're kind of talking about the backlash that you do get sometimes. So I know you talked about one in the book specifically about WAP. And first of all, let me tell y'all
Right.
something. Keep y'all WAP. Do what you got to do. Ain't nothing wrong with some WAP. Do you? But
Yeah, do you? But look. I'm a daddy. You know, I'm a daddy with three
Right.
daughters, so I got a different
Right, right,
opinion.
right. But, but what we're specifically talking about is the context of WAP and how, women are just in the club now and they're just like, I got that WAP. It's like, okay, okay. Like, why is that the only thing you have to offer now? So tell us about
Right.
the instance that you talked about in the book where you got attacked for saying y'all need to calm down.
Well, it was two famous female singers. They're now in their 50s, female R&B singers, and they were having a live on Instagram. Of course, I won't mention their names. And they were talking about how cute the song WAP was and how they loved it, which they're adult women, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they was just asking people's opinions, so I chimed in and I told them as a father of three daughters, because in my opinion, people can say what they want, but this hip hop music is geared to teenage girls. It's not geared to adult women. These teenagers are buying this music. So yeah, raising our kids, it starts in the home. But when our kids leave the home, we have no control over what they listen to or whatever. So anyway, I told them that as a father of three daughters, that I was offended by the lyrics because I wouldn't want my daughters singing the things that they're singing, especially in public. And the women attacked me and said, well, he need to learn how to raise his daughters and this and that, not knowing that I'm a family advocate. This is what I do. But I just didn't understand that how they quickly attacked a father for speaking up for his daughters. It was
Right. And
kind of
that's
crazy
why I
to me.
put the disclaimer out there because we're not talking about anything like that. We're not talking about what you can and cannot wear. We're not talking about you being a sexual person, any of that. Hey, be sexy, rock the dress, rock the bikini, do whatever you want to do. We're talking specifically about the exploitation from generations and what that has done to the African American community, minority community, the mindset, what it is now that people are defining as sexual and sexy and over sexy. So that's what we're talking about specifically. So, Avery, can you tell us what is the biggest thing you want people to take away from your book?
Well, I just want us as content creators to control our narratives again. A lot of us complain about these people did this to us, that person did that to us. But right now, the false narratives that were created in the past, we are starting to just carry these narratives on, and we're degrading ourselves. Right now, in this day and time with social media, I mean, the internet, there is no reason why we should continue to create content that is degrading. If you look at the music industry right now, I mean, everything on the music in the music industry is negative and degrading to our people. But I remember during slavery, music was very impactful. We had music that taught our people to escape, ways to escape freedom and everything like that. Then you look at the civil rights movement. During the civil rights movement, the music was impactful to help us to keep marching on. And even during the love R&B music, we had a lot of black men speaking highly about how much they love and how much they respected their women. But nowadays, it seems like that agenda has been switched to where, hey, we're going to get these kids out of the that's been coming from generations of poverty, pay them millions of dollars to put out these negative and degrading messages to the rest of the community. So we're going to pay you millions of dollars, but we're going to let you continue to put this narrative out there that's going to destroy your community. And I think we have to put a change to it. We have to start creating, positive narratives towards our community.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about that because we always talk about 90s R&B. You know,
Yeah, I mean that a lot of babies were made
right,
back then,
right.
right?
But the 90s R&B, everybody, it was love and I miss you and all of this stuff. And like now, I mean, and like honestly, when I'm doing like when I'm posting a video on TikTok and you have to pick a song or pick the audio. And sometimes I try to list, like I'll try to look for a song, and I swear, like it'll say something sweet the first two lyrics, and the next lyric is like something nasty, and I'm like,
Something
right.
real
I'm like,
foul.
okay, I like the beat, I like the song, and now you're already talking about ass and what. It's like, what? Like, oh my gosh, y'all don't even know how to sing a R&B song anymore. Like, it's not even. Oh, thank goodness those artists like Tank and everybody, they still wooing us.
Right. We still
Because if
have
it
them.
wasn't for them saving the
Yeah.
day, Lord have mercy.
Hmm.
I feel bad for our kids. But anyway, I digress, Avery. Okay, so what I also wanted to do was I just wanted to just touch on, because I know that letters to my daughters was something big that you worked on, and I know that you had something at the NAACP and all kind of stuff that went with that. So tell us about that as well. Just little promo for that, and explain to us how that came about, and what the goal was for that. Oh, and I love the cover.
Okay, this is letters to my daughters, and like I said earlier, I wrote letters to my daughters to teach my daughters to embrace the love of God and self, so they wouldn't desperately seek love from man and anyone else. But what I didn't understand is that I thought God was using me to write from my heart to my daughters. But as I did interviews and did radio shows, black women, not just black women, but just women in general, started shedding tears and telling me their stories. And I had no idea that a lot of black women were hurting from the lack of a father being in the home. And a lot of them would tell me that, Avery, I wish that I had a father in the home to say the things that you're saying to your daughters in the book. And maybe I wouldn't go through that heartache and pain. I wouldn't have experienced the heartache and pain that I experienced in the past. So I have quotes in the book like, never live your life according to man's expectations. You're above the expectations of man. You're God's creation. Never sacrifice your love for self for the love of someone else. And just a lot of positive, uplifting quotes to build self esteem. And that's what I was doing for my daughters. I wanted to leave a legacy behind to where they can open it and say, hey, this is what my dad was saying to me. My dad was pouring love affirmations into me. But the book has touched more adult women than kids, and that shocked me and that surprised me. And they taught me a lot.
And I love that. I love that. And I will tell you this, and I don't talk about my personal business a lot, but well, unless I'm cussing out people, but I don't talk about but I have a great dad. Like, my dad was like you. My dad was still my best friend. If you follow me on Instagram, you see I take my dad on family vacations even now. So I'm a huge daddy's girl. But my daughter unfortunately didn't have that relationship and doesn't have that relationship with her dad. And, sometimes I'll hear her say things when it's me and my dad, and she's like, "Oh, I wish I knew what that was like," or, "That's not the way that I'll be." So, my dad has tried to kind of embrace that for her and stuff. So you're right though. Like, I see it through her, and I'm always really sad, and I even tried to tell her dad, like, you don't realize this is a big impact. You're supposed to be your daughter's first love and that person that's doing those things. So I definitely
Right.
appreciate that you are doing that. And like you said, there's so many women who now have made bad love choices or did things in life. I try to keep my daughter. I'm like, listen, all right, now you ain't got a daddy, but you got a mama that's a pimp. So let me tell you how to do get you.
Hmm. Nah, real talk, real
So
talk.
we're not gonna do these crazy things. All right, you ain't no crazy girl. Now this what it is. I'm gonna tell you how to do it. Navigate like this. So, so I try to do that. But yeah, she had that father figure. So I definitely think, especially if you have a mom that maybe is not as vocal about those things, there's definitely a disparity there between the women that have those involved fathers that are actually being a father figure, and then women who maybe don't have a dad or have a dad who didn't know how to teach them self-love. So that's really important too. I love that. I love that. So, Avery, tell us about any future projects and how people can support you, because I mean now they want to go, either they want to go read the book to hate on it, or they want to read the book because they want to be educated, and now they want to go get letters to my daughter for themselves or their own loved ones or whatever.
Yes.
So tell us about any projects that you're working on and how people can get your things and support you.
Okay, I'm gonna speak about the products the products I had in the past. Letters to my daughters, poetic affirmations of love from a father. Um, just speaking my mind, spoken word poetry, volume one. A lot of people know me from being a spoken word poet. I started off as a spoken word poet with Seven the Poet down at the Shadow Bar back in the day off of 213 Miler. So let's see. I also wrote a book called Mother. It's a heartfelt tribute to single mothers. What I wanted to do was pay homage to single mothers because I think a lot of single mothers need to be celebrated, and I wanted to celebrate mine. Also, I wrote a love letter to our beautiful black women because I love black women. Like I said, I was raised by black women, and I feel that we owe it to black women to pour into them. And Legacy is a book I wrote also, which is the second edition to Letters to My Daughters. Because, like I said, after I spoke to a lot of women about letters to my daughters, they shared their stories with me, and I kind of shared those stories in the book also. And the last one is Breakthrough. This is a book that I co-authored with Les Brown and some other authors, and this is a motivational book of us telling our breakthrough stories. So my upcoming events in February, on February 18th, I do an annual event with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the Fort Bend alumni chapter. So we have a book festival that's February 18th that I'll be participating in. And right now I'm working on a movie for over-sexualization of black women in America because I think that really needs to be told. That story needs to be told.
Okay, look at you, busy bee. So, how can they get all of those books? Or I'm sure all platforms, but website, social media handles.
Okay, if you want autographed copies of any of my books, please go to averywashington.com, which is my author website, averywashington.com. Now, if you want the Kindle editions or the audio books or hardcovers, you can go to amazon.com. But also, please follow me at author Avery Washington on Instagram, and you will be able to see all the updates of the events that I'm doing.
Okay, love it, love it. So, website is
Avery
averywashington.com
Washington.
and Instagram is
Mhm.
author averywashington.com, and Avery is spelled. Okay, good,
Avery.
for clarification for anyone that's listening as well. Okay, awesome, awesome. So I'll have to definitely figure out how to come to one of your book events and network. And is there anything that you want to end with? Anything you want to share? Any positive affirmation for anyone listening?
I know you were speaking about your daughter and about a father is the first love of a daughter, and that's one of the quotes that I have in letters to my daughter. The quote is the first love of a daughter is her father, so don't be the first man to break her heart. And I think that's very important. And I want to give a shout out to single mothers. You know, I know there's a lot of myths out there about single mothers that are negative, but honestly, a lot of men of substance appreciate and value single mothers because I was one of them. When I saw my wife and I saw how she raised her daughter and how she took care of her daughters and how she was independent and strong, men of substance love strong, independent women. There's another myth out there that men are intimidated by independent women. Those are not men. Men are attracted to independent women. So I want to applaud all the single mothers out there that are taking care of their kids and on their grind with their businesses and everything. And I appreciate you. And that's why if you look at my line of books, all of my books are geared to celebrating women because women have poured so much into me. And I thank you all for doing that.
Love that, love that. And I know y'all heard he said men of substance, not y'all little chicken heads that ain't doing
Yeah.
nothing with so if he's not appreciating you, that's because he ain't a man of substance. I love that. I love that. I love that. So that is Avery
That is.
Washington, you guys. Make sure you support, follow, get his books, follow him for events, all that great stuff. So thanks, Avery.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on your platform.